A portion of today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp. Hey everyone, Travis here, and the Apple Vision Pro has been released to the wild for a few days now, and with that, I wanted to check out all the available apps that are out there in the App Store and pick some of my favorites. Apple says there's about 600 native apps available for the Vision Pro as of day one, and I'm sure that's gonna grow significantly over time. Those are Apple Vision Pro Vision OS apps, not just iPhone and iPad apps moved over to the device. There's a little bit of everything in there, from immersive entertainment to art to weather to games, so I wanted to go through a few and pick my favorites. So here's 16 of my favorite Apple Vision Pro apps. The first app we have here on this list is Crouton, and this is a very cool immersive recipe app. It allows for step-by-step instructions and detailed breakdowns of everything you need for a recipe that's shown in this app and multiple windows, and this is gonna be super helpful for someone like me that absolutely knows nothing about cooking. A lot of people have questioned the use case of this device, and I think that this is one of those examples where it mixes real-world use cases like cooking with a 3D immersive space, being able to show you your recipes and everything that's going on within that recipe in your ingredients list, being able to check things off as you go and follow a step-by-step guide while still seeing your full environment as you're cooking. Next up is Carrot, which is a weather app with spice. Apple does not have their own weather app, so I had to default to a third-party one. This one has a full breakdown of everything you need to know about the current weather, especially since it's raining in LA right now, but it has all the things you need to know. And the app itself, you can choose how sassy or not you want it to be, and it has some funny jokes to go along with the weather. My favorite part about this app is the full 3D Earth model that shows live weather data, and you can interact with it in real time. Super cool. Next up is Cut the Rope 3, and this brings me back to classic iOS games. Cut the Rope is one of those classic iOS apps that I spent many hours on my iPhone 5 playing back when app games were kind of new and fresh with touchscreen controls. But this one is fully 3D and immersive, and you use your eyes and your pinching to cut the rope. Now, as we go through the launch of the Apple Vision Pro, we are gonna make a ton of more content breaking this device down even further, so make sure to subscribe. An app that I found to be very interesting to utilize your real-world space in 3D immersive is Vinci E. This app allows you to take a 2D image that's stored on your device and place it on a physical surface and change the opacity so you could use it to trace. I think this idea is really cool, but in addition to that, you can actually use another device and make murals in 3D. Now, as far as art and creative apps, this is only scratching the surface, and I'm sure as time goes on, utilizing this for creative purposes is going to be awesome. Now, the 3D effect of these displays in this thing is super convincing and the best I've seen out of any VR headset so far, and Exploring Mars is a great example of that. This app is very similar to Jigspace, which I will talk about in a minute. This app shows a full 3D working, even life-size if you want it to be, Mars rover. The coolest thing here is not only is it functional, but you can pick out each piece and it gives you a description on what that part does. And I think things like this for education are gonna be super crazy going forward. Obviously, this thing's gonna need to get a little bit cheaper to make that happen, but we can hope. The next app is called Indle, and I could find this to be very useful for those that meditate. It basically takes the world around you and makes it fully immersive. This app is very cool as it completely changes over your 3D space into light rays so you can really focus and feel like you're out in the sun. You can set timers on how long you want this to go on for, and it looks like there's gonna be even more added to this app in the future. And another app that I find to be super useful is one from today's video sponsor, BetterHelp. It's that time of year where you're feeling motivated to create better habits for yourself, but the thought of where to start can be very daunting. Whether they're personal goals, overcoming challenges, or just striving to have a better overall mental health, BetterHelp makes starting therapy much less intimidating and much more accessible than ever. Having a therapist can encourage you to make what's called a SMART goal: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound, which could set you up for success. It's incredibly easy to get started. You fill out a questionnaire that will ask you questions about what challenges you're going through and what kind of therapist you'd like, and then BetterHelp will adapt and match you with the best therapist available for you. Join over the 4 million people that have used BetterHelp and start living a healthier and better life. Click the link in the description below or visit betterhelp.com/TLD. BetterHelp will match you to one of over 30,000 therapists in their network based on your needs, preferences, and location, which gives you access to a wider wider range of expertise than may be available in your city. Therapy sessions are offered in different formats like video call, phone call, or even messaging, which makes it really convenient and comfortable for the therapy that you want. Clicking our link helps support the channel and also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can start connecting with a therapist today. And thank you so much to BetterHelp for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Game Room is the closest thing that I will get to full life-size Harry Potter chess, and this thing is really cool. Not only can you play other card games on this app, but it also gives you a full 3D platform that sits right in front of you as you play your game. And it still blows my mind that you can just look at the board, look at a chess piece, tap your fingers together and move it across the board. It's honestly magic. So if you were looking to play solitaire or chess, this is definitely a cool way to play it in a 3D space. Now, I mentioned this before, and this app is called Jigspace, and I think it's one of the coolest apps available on the Vision Pro as of yet. This app shows 3D models, and it seems like it's gonna be mostly utilized for businesses, but the two models that I looked at so far blew my mind. Most notably, the airplane engine and an F1 car. Not only are these actual 2-size scale models, but they are fully functional and you can take each piece apart, similar to the Mars rover, but in this case, I can actually pull a piece of the engine out and look at it. And the same thing with the car, I can look at individual components and remove it out of the car. It's honestly what I think for the future of this device is going to look like, being able to experience a mixed reality where you're looking at something that's not in real life, but in your real space, and it's so cool. And I did have some funny moments with both of these apps that we posted both on Instagram and TikTok, so make sure to follow us there. And this car is literally in the middle of the office. If we parked a car in here, this is how big it would be. Now, there were a couple apps in the App Store that I was surprised to see there so fast, and one of those was the Lowe's Style Studio. This app shows a fully 3D modeled kitchen, and you can select from a ton of different layouts, and within that, change out each individual component from something that is available from Lowe's. So if you're really trying to plan that kitchen remodel, you may want to grab your Vision Pro for that. Lungi is a very cool app that not only uses a mixed reality AR/VR experience, but also has spatial audio as well. These floating blobs appear depending on which session you choose, and honestly at first when I tapped on it and it flew away from me, and then I tapped on another one and it flew behind me and there was full spatial audio, I thought that this was a really cool idea. And I was sitting there for probably about 15 minutes just throwing the gongs around the room. Now, as an educational tool, I also think that the Vision Pro is gonna be a very functional device, as you can have so many windows open all at the same time. And I think MindNote is a very cool way of using your space. This allows you to use your space and literally throw whatever's on your mind into different nodes that appear in 3D space. And I think for someone like me that really needs to get all of their brain dumps out when they have ideas, could be very functional in an educational environment. Or if you're just trying to plan out video ideas like me. Next up is an app called School that you could use for school. I think this app School could work really well in tandem with MindNote, showing all of your classes, all of your assignments, and it can sync with Google Classroom so you can see all of your live data. And I think someone that's trying to be very organized, especially if they're going to school, could utilize both of these really well. SkyGuide is a classic iOS app that utilizes the gyroscope to look at constellations, and the best way previously to use this was with an iPad. Now with the Vision Pro, you can fully be immersed in all of the constellations, looking all the way around you up at the sky and be able to see those in real time. And I feel like this gives you a much more interesting view of the stars and constellations compared to an iPad. Another classic iOS game that made it over to the Vision Pro is Super Fruit Ninja. Fruit Ninja was up there with Cut the Rope and Angry Birds for my iPhone 4 pastimes for gaming, and this thing is super fun. Now, of course, there are no remotes or controllers with this, and with the Vision Pro, you pretty much only use your hands and your eyes, and you can slice your fruit just by slicing your hand, and I had a really good time with this. Of course, in your space, you want to give yourself plenty of room to utilize this because you're going to be moving around, and all of it happens in your space, even with the 3D Sensei. Last game on this list is Synth Riders. Now, one of my favorite experiences with another VR headset was the MetaQuest 2 and using it with a game called Beat Saber. And this is like Beat Saber with Guitar Hero, but only with your hands. Now, not having any controllers and only using your hands, I thought was gonna be a very weird experience, but after really playing it for 2 songs, I got used to it right away. And all things considered, moving your hands around, you can stay on beat, and it's really responsive. So if you're looking for a fun game that's like Beat Saber or a Guitar Hero-esque rhythm game that you can play on the Vision Pro, this one is it. Now, last up is an app called Voyager. Now, this app pulls live air traffic control data and even shows you full-on terrain of that airport that you select and all the flights that are arriving and departing from that specific airport. It's so cool. Now, if you tap on a specific flight from that airport, it'll actually even show you the altitude and speed of that aircraft. So for those flight gurus out there, you might find this one quite fun. So wrapping up this video, some apps are more interesting than others. And the thing that I have to keep in mind here is that these are basically the launch apps from the first week of the App Store on the Vision Pro. So the apps that we're gonna have now compared to 5 years from now are gonna be insanely different. And the apps that are available right now really remind me of when the first gen iPad came out. It was a lot of novelty stuff, especially with games using the larger touchscreen at the time, but as time went on, multiple years later, 14 years later, it's gotten significantly better. And I'm sure in June at WWDC, Apple's gonna show off Vision OS 2, and they're gonna have some app developers up there that show off some really cool stuff with some new functionality. But until then, I'll keep my eyes peeled on the App Store and see if there's gonna be even more that comes out as the weeks go by. What are your thoughts on the apps that I listed today? And is there any that you experienced yourself that I should have mentioned? Comment down below your thoughts on apps for the Apple Vision Pro. Thank you so much for watching. This is Travis, and have a good night.